三去，一去三去，一去三去，一去三去。
Yes, we're live. We're live here on 88.3 FM, your superstation for South Louisiana. Good morning, good morning, good morning. I'm a little late, like always, doing so many different things. Different talk shows we producing, different situations going on. So let me, I think I got a little bleed over. Yes. Again, welcome to the People's Tech and Entertainment Show here on KIEE 88.3 FM, your superstation for South Louisiana. I want to thank the staff and management for making this show possible. So many things going on this weekend, a lot of holidays and festivals and celebrations. I know my hometown in Liberia, there's a celebration, but I want to say, people, please be careful. Please be careful. Be aware of traffic stops and so forth that's going on. I know in St. Martin Parish on Highway 9 there's a lot of construction going on. When you hit St. Martin Parish coming out of Iberia Parish, there are many, let's say, I'm not going to necessarily say speed traps, but certainly law enforcement has a presence on that section of highway, and if you don't pay attention, you could find yourself being pulled over for a ticket. So pay attention. Do not speed through a construction zone. That's all I'm going to say. Do not speed, because there are people trying to push you through this construction zone. If you're traveling, these trucks come up on you and they get all on your bumper, and so they're pushing you forward, so you're trying to speed up, and therefore you get stopped by law enforcement, not the truck that's speeding in that situation. So I just want to say that much. This coming Wednesday at 12:30, there will be a large rally to demand justice for Mr. Ronald Green. Again, Miss Mona Horton, the mother of Ronald Green, who we had as a guest on our Open Line Radio talk show, she and others from around the country will be attending at on the steps of the Capitol in Baton Rouge, people. So I'm just saying, please try to get out. It's election season. One of the questions for your elected official, if you're running for state office, should be at the top of the pyramid. What are you going to do about the issue with Ronald Green family getting justice for him, who a lot of people and organizations are saying he was murdered at the hands of the Louisiana State Police, and there was a cover-up. So the family is demanding justice. Our guest speaker will be civil rights attorney Ben Crump, and also the family of another young man who was beaten severely and he died at the hands of police, Mr. Tyree Nichols in Memphis. Everybody remember that? With 4 to 5 and one black officers and one white officers and others that participated in the beating of that young man, Tyree Nichols. And then there was another cover-up, and that made national news, and it was in the news circle for a good while, then it faded. But the Ronald Green case also, they want to fade it off, but it keeps coming back. It demands justice. There was promised by the United States Department of Justice to come in and do a series of town hall meetings, which Sister Khadijah and I attended, and spoke with the Justice Department about issues not only with the Louisiana State Police, local police in our jurisdiction where we live. And they assured us that they will be doing a town hall meeting in the Lafayette area to address the concerns and needs of the citizens. Now, we have a sitting United States attorney here in Lafayette, and I hope he would be attentive to that promise of the Department of Justice to have that meeting and in the city, in Lafayette, in the surrounding area. So, but I know this Saturday, this Wednesday at 12:30 on the steps of the Louisiana State Capitol would be Attorney Ben Crump, and we know who Ben Crump is, and the family of Tyree Nichols to come to Louisiana. And also special guest speakers is Miss Tamika Mallory, who I've interviewed on the old KJCB 7070 AM radio some years ago, who's now a prominent activist and a rising star. She's been on BET and other platforms. Miss Tamika Mallory and the group, and I think it's some of the rappers out of Houston, well known, called Until Freedom, because they were there at the last rally I covered, and we will bring the cameras of Real Talk TV, which we air different programs on AOC Community Media. So certainly we will be covering that event. So this Wednesday at 12:30, be there, form a caravan, go out and support the family of Ronald Green, because it speaks volume to the issues in the state of Louisiana. It's political season. We have some who are running for governor, who want to bring things back to way before where we had a semblance of justice. Didn't have a semblance of justice. So it's very important that we influence our political leaders to look into this issue with Ronald Green and the Louisiana State Police. I just want to hear my vent on that, because it's very important. Here's another very important issue, and this is a tech show. We're going to get into some tech. But, you know, voting is a serious thing to most people. Maybe not to others, but to most people in your community. Well, I read off the number of people running for office in the state of Louisiana, in the city of Lafayette. And I want to say that we need to be more informed of who's running. And if Sister Khadijah's listening, please call the regular line, or you're calling the main line we streaming. Louisiana Secretary of State has a list of all the candidates running. We read off the ones from the Lafayette area and Lafayette Parish on Wednesday show, the open line, the beginning of the open line show. Now today, I want to read, I think this is from the parishes of St. Martin, all the people that's running. Well, let's start off with governor. I didn't read the list of governor. But governor, we have, and that's one to be selected. This is in Iberia Parish. And that's Benjamin Barnes. He is running as an independent. He's running as an independent. Okay, there's Patrick Henry Dat Bartel. He's running as a Republican. There's Daniel M. Cole. He's running as a Democrat. There's Oscar Omar Danzner Jr. He's running as a Democrat. There's Xavier Alexis, and he's running as a Republican. Okay, I'm sorry, Xavier Elias. He's running as a Republican. He's based out of Opelousas. Okay, let's see. Okay, here we go again. There's a number of people running for governor. Mr. Kentron Gagon. He's running as no party. We got Sharon Hewitt. She is running as a Republican. I think her name is prominent in a lot of circles for the Republicans. We got Jeffrey Ister, and he's an independent, running as an independent. We got Exwan John. Some of these names, he's running as a Republican. We got a well-known name, who's the present Attorney General of the state of Louisiana, Mr. Jeff Landry. He's running as a Republican. We got Hunter Lundy. He's running as an independent. Okay. We have Mr. Richard Nelson from Mandeville. He's running as a Republican. We got John Schroeder. I think he's the Secretary of State. He's running as a Republican. We got Frank Skurlock. He's running as an independent. We got Stephen Wagaspack. I think his name is well known also. He's running as a Republican. And we got Dr. Sean Wilson. Everybody knows Dr. Sean Wilson. He's running as a Democrat. And that's the governor's race. A lot of names. You could go to the Secretary of State website and you could look at the ballot, sample ballot, and they'll show you a sample ballot. Those who have access to technology, this is what this technology is for, to access information, and hopefully this accurate information. But they also, with those names and party affiliation I'm giving, they're also their race and their gender. You know, some people want to know that. Some people use that as a factor to vote for people. So go to the Secretary of State website. That's the list for governor. Now we're going to Lieutenant Governor, and we have none other than Mr. Albert Lee Guillory, who we interviewed on the Open Line radio show. He's running as a Republican. We got Tammy Hattard. She is running as a Republican. We got Willie Jones. He is running as a Democrat. We got Billy Nunsganger, the present Lieutenant Governor of the state of Louisiana. He's running as a Republican. We got Bruce Payton. He's running as a independent. Okay. And we got Chester Pritchett. He withdrew. I mean, that was listed under there. Okay. And then we got Gary Rispone. He is running as no party. Okay, we certainly have a lot of no parties, not even an independent, you know. Okay, so we have Nancy Landry. She's very familiar. She's running as a Republican. Okay, we have Arthur Morrell out of New Orleans. I recognize the name. He's running as a Democrat. We got Clay Sexsnyder, another recognizable name. He's running as a Republican. We got Brandon Trosclair running as a Republican. Now that must be for the, I guess that's the Lieutenant Governor. Okay, for Attorney General, we got Lindsey Creek running as a Democrat. Okay, then we got Marty Maley running as a Republican. We got Liz Baker Morrell, that's a familiar name. She's running as a Republican. We got John Stefani. He's another familiar name, running as a Republican. We got Perry Walker Terrebonne, and he's running as a Democrat. Okay, now we're going to the treasurer. John Fleming, he's running as a male. I'm sorry, I was going to say that he's a white male, yes. On the list, they got it in the place of where the party affiliation at. He's a Republican. Miss Grant. Okay. We got Dustin Granger. He's running as a Democrat. We got Scott McKnight. He's running as a Republican. Okay, Commissioner of Agriculture. We got Mike Strain, familiar with that, and I don't know if anybody running against him. That's the only name I see listed. He got unopposed. Okay, he's a Republican. Commissioner of Insurance, Tim Temple. He's unopposed, also Republican. No, they have it unopposed, but they have another name named Rich Weaver, who withdrew. Okay, I see now. He was a Democrat. Okay. I think it's the Bessie Board, District 3, Sandy LeBlanc Holloway. Unopposed. That was the Bessie Board, and that's in Iberia Parish, I think. State Senator, District 21, Senatorial District 21. That's Robert Allen. He's a Republican. Henry Beau-Lagrange. Where did I hear his name come up? He's running as a Republican. Stephen Swiber, he's a Republican. That's the Senate District 21. Now here's the district that everybody's drawing interest into. And I said it on the Wednesday show. A salary that pays around $30,000 to $40,000 from what I heard. Why would somebody spend $200,000 to get that seat? Well, you know, these state senator and these state representative seats are very, very, very important as far as influencing policies and procedures in the state of Louisiana. That's why it's important to go out and vote for the right candidate who's going to probably do the right thing. But then again, we have a lot of influence peddling going on in Baton Rouge. You know, too bad when we do that rally in Baton Rouge, we can't influence the state legislature much as the lobbyists do for the justice for Ronald Green. But okay, here I go. You, Andre, was Senate District 22, and he's a Republican. Dexter Layton, he is running as an independent. Blake Miguez, another prominent name that figures in politics in Louisiana, is running as a Republican. Blake Miguez, that's on the Senate District 22. Then we got our good friend who we had many times as a guest on the Open Line Radio Show when she was mayor of St. Martinville, Louisiana, Melinda Narcisse Mel Mitchell. She's running for that seat also. She's running as a Democrat. Then we have the young man out of New Iberia who was very influential in helping clean up some things on Hopkins Street. I hate to go there just to be familiar. It's a Laotian or Vietnamese name. I'm not familiar with the pronunciation of his name, but I know his works speaks volume in New Iberia. His name is Fanat P.X. X-A-N-A-M-A-N-E. Forgive me if I can't pronounce his name. But he is a Democrat, running as a Democrat. So all of these candidates are very prominent in District 22. Pay attention to that race. I think the district encumbers parts of Lafayette, St. Martin, and Iberia. You know, I might be wrong, but go ahead and do your research. Go to the Secretary of State website. Now, for State Representative District 48, Bouye, that's how they pronounce it, these names out in South Louisiana, Bouye, he's running as a Republican, okay? And David Levy, Mr. David Levy, I know him. He's running as a Democrat, okay? Okay, now we're going to State Representative District 49, Sanders Sandy DeReese, as a Republican, running as a Republican. David Eaton, running as a Republican. Jacob Landry, running as a Jacob Landry running as I'm trying to see, Republican. It's grayed out. So that's the state representative. I'm gonna come back briefly after I get this call in, and I'll call you guys right back.
Top of mind for many educators this school year is what kind of impact generative artificial intelligence tools like ChatGPT and Bard have on students.
This is a much longer question. What is it? Right? So we have to define it.
Today, on the second installment of our series, Reading, Writing, and Algorithms, we're going to explore that question. By the way, if you haven't yet, check out our first episode. We'll link that in our show notes.
Yeah, good morning.
To figure out exactly how
Yes,
students could be affected by generative AI, TNV's producer Julie Chang visited with some teachers as they prepared to return to the classroom.
Okay. Oh, you want to chime in? Yeah. Listen, I'm off the air right now. Nobody can hear me, but I didn't have my equipment, so I'm a little lost right here. I'm gonna try to patch you in where we can get you on. Okay? You want to make some comment? You will hear me pretty good. On the radio show. I don't know if you was listening. No, before that, you was hearing the show. Because I'm trying to get some feedback. I know Sister Khadijah was calling me. Okay, well, I'm going to patch you in and I'm going to bring you back on. Hold on. Yeah, we're back. We're back here at the People's Tech and Entertainment Show. And we have a guest on the line. He wants to make some observation on it. And people, please forgive me. I don't have my equipment. I went some kind of way I went and I forgot my equipment, and I'm not used to using this board in this manner, but we're going to make it work. We have on the line, I think it's Dr. Chris Williams. Good morning, Dr. Williams.
Good morning, Reverend Jimmy. Good morning to the listening audience. Thank you so much for accepting the call this morning on a beautiful Saturday morning. I wanted to chime in a little bit, and thank you for giving the information to the voters, because we have a lot on the ballot. I know that government and politics and voting is sometimes a very contentious issue, whether or not it even has an impact. But we have, I think of Emmett Till, I think of the four little girls who died of Birmingham. And I just know that even though we are fighting a battle, that there was a lot of people who died of stuff, but I don't like to participate in this process. African Americans constitute 14% of the population in this country, but worldwide, there are more black and brown people than any other ethnicity. And of course, all humanity started on the continent of Africa. So it is with that prefix that I offer the following. And I'm going to limit my comments today to Senate District, this morning to Senate District 22, where we have some great people running the former mayor, as you mentioned. But I want to particularly educate our brothers and sisters about a candidate who is running, who has been a modern-day president in the Louisiana legislature, and that is Blake Miguez. Blake Miguez has fought against every progressive measure in the Louisiana legislature, against voting rights opportunity, against increasing the minimum wage, against treating women and men and paying them the same wage for the same work, against creating a second congressional district. He has constantly fought against initiatives of the Legislative Black Caucus, our unions, and also our religious community. Blake Miguez out of Iberia Parish would be a horrible selection, in my opinion. And I ask that as we go to these events in Generate and New Iberia this weekend, if Blake Miguez comes to our community, that we ask him, why is he so much against black and brown and poor people initiatives in the state of Louisiana? We cannot afford, in my opinion, to have Blake Miguez elected in the Louisiana Senate. He would be a pariah. He would go against the things that are for our community. And it's important that when we have him in our churches, but when we have him and when we invite him to our events, particularly black and brown people, that we understand that it is a duty for us to ask him why he votes against the things that black people propose and that the legislative and the caucus propose and that progressive groups propose in the state of Louisiana. We cannot allow Blake Miguez to have a free ride, because we have some people in our community who have latched on to him, who have taken money from him, and who have committed to support him for economic reasons as opposed to what is good for our community. So I simply ask that you make your own decision in the end, but that we all do our due diligence when we look at these candidates. And I particularly want to ask that we look very, very closely at Blake Miguez and what he's done to hamper growth in our state and stopping our state from moving forward. Senate District 22 has been represented by Fred Mills for at least 12 years, I think. And at least Senator Mills has an open ear. He was able to move some progressive measures forward, dealing with criminal justice reform, marijuana, and other issues, healthcare, particularly with healthcare expansion. And so we cannot go from having someone that can at least we can have a discussion with and move us in this regard, and having an ultra-conservative who supports Donald Trump, Blake Miguez is a Trump supporter. He believes in the Trump doctrine. He doesn't believe that January 6th happened. He doesn't believe President Obama is the President of the reads the United States Senate. Vote against Blake Miguel, and remember to always let justice run down like waters and righteousness like the mighty stream. Thank you so much, Brother Jay. I'm going to continue to listen, but thank you so much for taking the call this morning.
Yes, sir. Thank you for those observations. Just to keep the public informed. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
There you go. People, you got to make your own decision. You know, we as radio hosts has to maintain a neutral situation. But you know what? We still have to deal with things that are going on in our community that we can't turn a blind eye to. And that's one of the reasons I want to read off the names. Even though I'm just running through it, go to the Secretary of State website, the Louisiana Secretary of State website. Everybody has the internet. Everybody has their phone as their internet device. This is a tech show. Educate yourself. Stay in the know. You can't say you don't have a reason to not know of something that's going on in your community when you have access at your fingertips. So we know, like Dr. Williams said, that race is highly contested. And the only comment I'm going to make about it, all the money being spent for that one senatorial district race, that means that seat is coveted. And when something is coveted that much, you know, you really got to think about it. You really should think about it. Okay, we're going back into, we just finished District 49, Representative District 49. So we just go to State Representative District 96, which is already unopposed. That's Marcus Bryant, unopposed. And the sheriff in Iberia Parish, Tommy Romero, that he went basically unopposed. Let's see, wait, there's somebody else filed something as sheriff. Let's see. Yeah, that was, he went unopposed, I guess. Okay. So I think we're going to move on to, I want to play this AI piece, then we can come back later and move on to St. Martin Parish, those local races. Since we read, these two parishes border each other, so most of the candidates I read, the governors and the state reps, that's taken care of. We could try to go down to the local city council and parish council in St. Martin Parish. So I'm going to run this piece and we'll be right back.
Technological superpowers. What? You could do it all today. You might think that's not possible yet, but you would be wrong. Elon Musk's Neuralink brain implant may get the biggest spotlight right now, but Neuralink is only one small company in the rapidly emerging world of brain-computer interface. There are currently hundreds of people out there who have successfully connected the human mind with computer technology, and many of them didn't even need brain surgery to do it. You can become a cyborg yourself, and we're going to show you how. This is the truth about brain implants. This all goes back to a guy named Hans Berger. He was a scientist in the 1920s and was the first person to officially discover that the brain functions through electrical activity. So everything going on inside your skull, everything you've ever known, and every experience you've had has been a series of electrical currents flowing through a lump of soggy gray meat. The problem now is that we are self-aware of our existence as lumps of electrified meat trapped inside decaying bodies, and that's probably a big reason why human beings have become so anxious in the past 100 years. Anyway, Hans Berger used this new revelation to develop a science called electroencephalography, or EEG. This is a method to detect and record those electrical signals inside the brain as they happen. What Berger found were these rhythmic or oscillating patterns of neural activity, what we often refer to as simply brainwaves. Berger's early experiments were about as crude as you'd expect for the 1920s. He jammed a couple of silver wires directly into a patient's scalp, then connected them to a Victorian-era electrometer that used a glass tube filled with mercury to visualize the electrical pulses. Now, Obviously, the technology has advanced a lot since that time. I'm not going to drag you through the entire history of sticking wires into people's brains. The important takeaway here is that the fundamental reason for doing this has always been the same. We are trying to capture the most detailed recording possible of the electrical language going on inside our gray meat lump. The field of brain-computer interface, or BCI, wasn't really able to gain much traction until the computer technology had evolved to a point of being able to keep up with the human brain. So the first real BCI breakthrough started to arrive in the late 90s. Here is how they did it. Instead of sticking wires into a patient's scalp, modern BCI goes straight to the brain itself using an invasive surgery that exposes the outer layer, and then instead of 2 wires, they insert 100 electrode connections directly into the brain matter. This is made possible by something called a Utah array. This is a little square of metal covered in tiny pins, up to 100 of them, and each pin is connected to a thin copper wire that runs out the back of the array. These pins are inserted directly into the brain's outer layer, the cerebral cortex, and that enables these electrodes to capture a very high-resolution recording of the electrical pulses that are occurring in the section of the brain where the implant is placed. The cerebral cortex is dense with neurons, which are cells in the brain that act as the transmitters and receivers for the electrochemical signal. Human beings have a lot of neurons, and that's made possible by the wrinkled texture of our cerebral cortex. The wrinkles allow for a larger surface area in a smaller package, and they are critical to human-level intelligence. The simple-minded mammals, like squirrels or manatees, all have smooth cortex layers with very minimal surface area, while intelligent mammals like humans, chimps, dolphins, and elephants all have deep wrinkles. Fun fact, if you peeled the cortex layer off your brain and smoothed it out flat, it would be about the same size as a small tablecloth, which is a neat visual, so good luck to the video editor on that one. Anyway, the neural activity picked up by the spikes in the Utah array are then fed into a signal processing device that generally sits on top of the patient's head. That processor is essentially translating the analog signal from the brain into a digital language that the computer can understand, and it transmits that signal through a big cable. And since both halves of your brain function differently, there is typically going to be at least one of these implants on each side of the person's head. There can be up to 6 devices implanted in one patient. So while much more evolved than jamming piano wires into the scalp, the Utah array is still a gruesome procedure. It's
Yeah, I was just running this piece because we get a lot on Brother Keith and I when we're doing the show. We're talking about Elon Musk and his other companies, you know, and he does a lot, right? He does a lot. But now there's a level of controversy with Elon Musk in everything he does. The issue is his Neuralink project. That supposedly was on the premise that his brain implants will help a person who's suffering from some type of congenital disease, you know, some type of paralysis or some type of issue with nerves and so forth. But one of the other pieces I have, because there's so much, once you start doing the show, you kind of segue into something else that might be a little bit more important, because at the end of the week, something is always changing. The election issues have been coming up about how, who to vote for. So we wanted to discuss Elon Musk. Keith is not here this week, but again, that Neuralink, the government has allowed them also announcement this week to start human experimentations. And here's the problem. Number of test subject animals, monkeys, have died. Have died. So the question is, you might have a loved one who has some severe medical condition. Would you let them experiment on that human being or have some trials with the devices Elon Musk is implanting in your brain? What Elon wants to do technically is interface the human body with a computer, be it AI or some forms of control where that person can control a machine. That's his ultimate goal. Now, some of the side issues that might bring about some type of miraculous cure where a person who have nerve damage and can't move their arm could move their arm, or might can perform a function that they lost years ago. So the controversy is the experimentation on the animals, and we know it's been done down through history. But a lot of people are coming out against the way Elon Musk proceeds, because it's like his ultimate goal is not what it seems to be. That's what, from what I'm hearing in the report. So and he is a tech guru, and he's somewhat of a genius. So pay attention to that story. It's fast becoming a big story. I did leave out some people in New Iberia. I think we going back to New Iberia with the state senator, District 17. I think this is, yes, State Senator District 17. Caleb said, Sept Peter. He's running as a Republican. That's Senate District 17. Peter Williams. He's running as a Democrat. So I think we went over this, Senate District 21. I had that information. This is old information. Senate District 24. Jared Boudreaux went unopposed. Okay, I'm trying to get down to the city council races. Sheriff in St. Martin Parish. Unopposed, I think, that's Beckett Broad incumbent. He's a Republican. Clerk of Court in St. Martin Parish. Laura Blanchard. She is a Republican. Reggie Clues, he is a Republican. Okay. Cy E. Savoy, he also is no party. Now, assessor for St. Martin Parish, Todd Dugas, he went unopposed. For coroner, St. Martin Parish, Warren Degater, he's unopposed. He's a Republican. Pete Delcom for parish president. This is for parish president. Pete Delcom, this is a big race, a very important race, because the former, well, not former, but parish president is not running for office again. But so it's a new set of people running. Pete Delcom, he's a Republican. And we got Dean LeBlanc, who's also a Republican, running for that office. We also have the present mayor of Park, Louisiana, who was a guest on my show on this past Wednesday, Mr. Kevin J. Catley, and he's running as a no party. So that's an important race for parish president of St. Martin Parish. Okay, we got council member, District 2. That should be parish district, you know. Oh, I'm sorry, I left out one on the parish, on the council District 1. Byron Fuselier, he's a Republican. And Hoyt Louvier, he's a Republican. Okay, council member District 2. We have incumbent Miss Carla Doucette Jean Baptiste. She's running as a Democrat. And we got Lori, L-U-R-R-Y. Lori, I never seen that name, and forgive me if I'm pronouncing it wrong. Lori James Seegee, and he's running as a Democrat. That's council, Parish Council District 2, St. Martin Parish. Council District 3, we have Edward George. He's running as a Democrat. We have Vonda Nelson LeBlanc, and they're running as a Democrat. We got Latu Tangi Narcisse. Forgive me for pronouncing it wrong. Latu Tangi Narcisse. They're running as a Democrat. And we had another young man who was here in our studios on the Open Line Radio Show. And again, we try to invite everybody. We technically we don't have a big funding situation to call everybody and have a phone bank to call everybody on the show, but we certainly have open invitation through emails for people to come be on the station or some of the shows here at 88.3. Lastly, in that same district, District 3, Parish Council for St. Martin Parish, we had this young man in the studio, Mr. Glenn Gap Paraday. Mr. Paraday, that is a name. Gap, I guess it might be Gap like on the spark plug. I don't know, man. I'm going to have to ask Antonio about that. Glenn Gap Paraday, he's running as a Republican, and that is Parish Council, District 3. You know. Okay. Council Member District 4, unopposed, Mr. David Poirier, he's a Republican. Council Member District 5, Chris Tozan, unopposed, he's independent. And, okay, independent. Council District 6, Corey P. Malonzo, and they're running as a Republican, and L. Mark Thibodeau in that same district is running as a Republican. Going on to Council Member District 7, Vincent Alexander, and he's running as a Democrat. Marvin R. Crockett, and he's running as a Democrat. That's Parish Council District 7. Okay, Council District 8, St. Martin Parish. Ben Clay, who's running as a Republican. Blaine Prejean, who's running as a Republican. Okay. Council Member District 9, Chris Corbill, running as a Republican, and Daniel Richard, running as an independent. So that's down the bottom line to St. Martin Parish. I want to read. If I missed some, forgive me. But here's a note. Go to the Louisiana Secretary of State website. Go to the ballots, and you would get all the information. You could even print it out like I did, which, you know, a lot of paper. But you could go to the website and you could see who's running. You could see what party affiliation they are, and some people want to know that. You know, we got to know who is aligned to what policy and what procedure. And some people want to know the gender, you know, and some people want to know where that person stays, because all their addresses are clearly on the Secretary of State website. I'm not giving out any information that's not on the Secretary of State website. Okay, so pay attention to these races, and hopefully we could have some from Vermilion, some before the end of the month, from Vermilion Parish, which is a big listening audience out there also. And also from St. Mary Parish, which has a big listening audience, have all the ins and outs. You know, I might have left out a few, but I'll come back to them if I see them, the names I'm not familiar with. Again, we were talking about Elon Musk, and his Neuralink project has been given the green light to start doing human trials with his implants, which he say he's seeking to help people with degenerative type illnesses of the nerves, and people who can't walk, and people who can't interface, and people who can't communicate. So that remains to be seen, because we know everything Elon Musk does, it has to be about money in the end. Money is the bottom line for him to profit. And I'm not too happy with his new rebranding of Twitter. People still use it. They call it X now. You know, really, Elon Musk has a lot of drama. Facebook has a lot of drama. And people are starting to get more and more distrustful of these big corporations. We know Apple just had an event where they released some more information, some more products. And the question is, are you going to spring for the new Apple iPhone 15? You know, every year is 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. You know, are you going to be spending that amount of money every year for a new phone? Some people, they love that. They love the fact that, and you know, I love technology, but to the point of every year you're investing a whole lot of money in something that all they're doing is giving you some minor updates. But I know the iPhone 15 has been touted as a all it could be type phone where I as a videographer can basically put my cameras away and use it for use the iPhone to do actual cinematic type filming. So that remains to be seen because we see these things get promoted so much, and before you know it, there's a letdown. There's always a letdown with these products. I think I have the promo about Apple. I'm gonna try to find it. I had somewhere on this. I don't have my my whole thing. I'm gonna try to find it where we could let you listen some of the products that Apple introduced. Are you gonna buy? Are you gonna purchase? I don't have it. Okay. Well, let's go to AI and teaching. I think you want to hear this one. It's very important.
Welcome to Tech News Briefing. It's Monday, August 21st. I'm Zoe Thomas for the Wall Street Journal. Top of mind for many educators this school year is what kind of impact will generative artificial intelligence tools like ChatGPT and Bard have on students' learning?
And it really makes this much loftier question of what is learning outcomes, right? And we have to redefine it.
Today, on the second installment of our series, Reading, Writing, and Algorithms, we're going to explore that question. By the way, if you haven't yet, check out our first episode. We'll link that in our show notes. To figure out exactly how students could be affected by generative AI, TNB's producer Julie Chang visited with some teachers as they prepared to return to the classroom. Julie picks it up from here.
It's the Friday before the fall term kicks off at Santa Teresa High School in San Jose, California. It's a public high school serving about 2,200 students. It has over 160 staff members and a pretty diverse student body with a large Latino population. A group of 7 teachers whose subjects range from math to English to social science met up in a classroom. They formed a circle, sitting in the students' desks, gathering to collaborate across disciplines and plan for the year ahead.
So, how many students do you think?
If I take mine, I'll probably take maybe 2 or 3 classes at most.
If I take all the AP Human Geo students, I need 12 chaperones.
It's a kind of conversation I'm familiar with. Before I made the pivot to journalism, I used to be a teacher myself. I worked mostly in higher ed. I taught freshman composition at a couple of community colleges. You probably remember it as English 101. That was my bread and butter. So when generative AI tools started going mainstream, naturally I wondered what it would mean to teach in a world where these tools are so readily available, and how educators would ensure students were still meeting their learning goals. So I visited Santa Teresa and sat in on their teacher meetup to find out how they're grappling with it. In subjects such as coding, it's difficult to prevent cheating, and the impact could be dire. Students who use generative AI run the risk of not attaining the skills to code on their own. That's according to Carol Ng, who teaches coding at the school.
They can always just put it in ChatGPT and the program came out. But it gets to the point where I really cannot tell whether the student did their homework or not. Because I guess with English, you know the style, of your students. But program is program. Yeah, it's really hard. So I don't know how I'm going to make sure my students are actually doing the work these days.
How do you normally test them?
Unfortunately, I let them just write the program or whatever. I'm thinking the coming year, I may actually use a paper test. Like no computers, everything switch off, write me this program by hand. Which is ridiculous because we don't do that. But how else can you check if the student really learned?
I'm wondering, Carol, I don't know much about coding, right? But then
That's Jason Chang. He's a social science teacher at Santa Teresa. He's looking for ways to work with AI.
I'm assuming if they're given the same problem for them to create a code or something, is it possible for you to kind of like create a problem for them to go like now go back to the code and find faults with it or how you can do things differently? And could that
This kind of exchange, whether teachers should bring in generative AI tools into their classes or not, is playing out across the country. And it's not an easy decision. For educators, the essential objective they have to keep in mind throughout their course is learning outcomes, the specific skills and information that students are expected to attain by the end of a class. Sarah Randazzo is an education reporter with the Wall Street Journal.
States really closely track what students should learn every year and have very detailed outcomes listed for every grade level, every subject. Every teacher knows this is what I'm supposed to be teaching my students by the end of the year. And at a super simplified level, say before you can read, you need to learn what sound each letter makes and how letters work together to make sounds, and then you can learn to read. So everything's a bit of a progression, if you will. You know, before you can do algebra, you need to learn how numbers add together. But if you can't do those benchmarks along the way, it'll ultimately catch up to you later when you're trying to learn more complex topics.
So how do teachers ensure that students are hitting their benchmarks? That question gets a lot trickier with generative AI tools. But Chang sees this moment as an opportunity.
It really makes this much loftier question of what is learning outcomes, right? And we have to redefine it. The pandemic was a great time to redefine it, but we just band-aided everything. And then we kind of lost out on that reimagining.
One area of study that generative AI is bound to have a big impact on is writing. Programs like ChatGPT and Bard can produce essay-length answers to prompts in mere seconds. So how could that disrupt writing classes? And what will it mean for the learning outcomes of those classes? Mark C. Marino is a professor of writing at the University of Southern California. He taught composition for over 25 years, and he's director of USC's Humanities and Critical Code Studies Lab. It's a lab that looked at the intersection of computer science and the humanities.
For me, writing is thinking. And so, on the one hand, we are teaching the skill with language arts, communication, interaction, but more importantly, writing is the manifestation of someone's thought process. And so when we're helping them with that process, we're helping them to develop their reasoning skills, their logic. You're in danger if you outsource that whole process to a chatbot of short-circuiting the whole reasoning process. A poor analogy, perhaps, is to have somebody else do your workout for you, right? I mean, at the end of the day, someone has worked out. Something has been lifted, but you've not acquired any of those benefits by any means.
But Marino isn't anti-AI. In fact, quite the opposite. Since the launch of ChatGPT last winter, he wanted to see how writing instructors could incorporate generative AI tools into not only their lessons, but also their overall approach to teaching. So Marino ran an experiment over the summer. He brought AI into his class, teaching the first ever writing course at USC themed as machine-assisted writing. From the get-go, he made it clear students would be using large language models, or LLMs. That's the software underpinning chatbots like ChatGPT, which are trained on public data.
I said, we're going to use them, and we're going to see if they help our writing process, and we're going to admit when they don't, and we're going to test these systems rather than try to police them or ban them or run from them.
One activity Marino came up with was based on the Turing test. The Turing test, created by British mathematician Alan Turing, was a test from the 1950s that suggested if you were having a text-only conversation with a computer and you couldn't tell it apart from a human, then it might be intelligent.
And so, inspired by that imitation game, I've had my students answer a question, and they answer it for themselves in, let's say, 5 or 6 sentences, and then they have an LLM, like ChatGPT, answer the question as well. And then we go into a forum where they submit one of the answers, either their own or the LLM's answer, and they don't tell us which is which. So then we read through all the answers, and the class together makes speculations and votes on which ones they think are written by the LLM, which ones by the students. And to my surprise, we had a very difficult time telling which ones were written by which.
After conducting that and various other exercises, Marino says he came away from the course with 2 main takeaways.
the ability for students to get something out of these systems that's really going to help them is somewhat dependent on how strong their writing skills are to begin with. And so if they have relatively weak writing skills and they're going to rely too heavily on these devices, then the systems are a disruption to their learning because they're going to put too much stock in what the system outputs. On the other hand, if a student has maybe more intermediate skills with writing, then they can see that these systems can supplement what they're doing, not take the place of their writing process.
In other words, yes, some students are able to meet the learning outcomes for a writing class, like being able to write an analytical essay or develop a sense of writing voice and style, despite the ubiquity of these AI programs. Some might even be able to use the tools to improve their skills. But plenty of others are bound to get left behind. And Marino says students who start out with a disadvantage, people like first-generation college students or English language learners, are likely to see those inequities exacerbated with the use of generative AI. And he says the ripple effects of relying on these tools will go beyond the classroom.
The student who turns to it or feels compelled for grade reasons or other reasons to turn to it as to provide them with some paragraphs that are good enough, and we lose their voices in the process. Their voices that may have already been excluded by the models that have been trained on majority culture language to begin with and majority culture ideas to begin with. Then suddenly this whole experiment of democratizing writing that builds communities out of very diverse voices starts to get whitewashed in a way that is unfortunate for the whole learning enterprise.
While students and educators are figuring out how all of this will play out, there's something that could affect them both: education technology companies and the programs they hope will disrupt things further. Join us next Monday for the third and final installment of our series, Reading, Writing, and Algorithms. In the meantime, you can catch regular episodes of Tech News Briefing the rest of this week.
We are interactive and live. Get in the know. Call us at area code 337-534-0036. That's 337-534-0036 on the People's Tech and Entertainment Show on KIEE 88.3 FM, your superstation for South Louisiana. It's summer, and it's hot at KIEE 88.3 FM, your superstation for South Louisiana. We have the hottest talk and informational shows on the air, heating it up for the community. Tune in every Wednesday for the Open Line Radio Show with Brother Jay and Sister Khadija. Tune in on Fridays for Business to Business with Mr. June Andrus. On Saturday morning, educate and get informed on the latest technology and entertainment news with Brother Jay on the People's Tech and Entertainment Show. Yes, it's hot and it's summer, so stay cool with your favorite talk and informational shows here on KIEE 88.3 FM, your superstation for South Louisiana. Listen online. Go to KIEEFM.com. That's KIEEFM.com. Superstation, KIEE 88.3 FM. Do you want to take the flavor with you wherever you go, on the road, in your car, at your job, and at home? Well, just go to KIEEFM.com. Yes, that's KIEEFM.com. And hit the Listen Live button and hear all your favorite programs, all your favorite talk shows, all your favorite DJs. That's what we mean when we say flavor in your ear. KIEE 88.3 FM, your superstation for South Louisiana.
Yes, we're back. We're back here at the People's Tech and Entertainment Show here on this Saturday morning. 15 after, a little over 15 after 10 o'clock a.m. So much stuff going on this weekend. Pay attention to where you at. Always promote the notion of stop the violence. Always have that in your back of your mind before something pops off. You know, I'm old school, I might say words like that. But so something go down, always have this in your mind. Stop the violence. We have to always preach it 24/7. We just had that piece before that about AI in classrooms. Now, the thing with AI, and probably schools will use it because schools are in the business or in the existence of using technology also, right? But the problem is, will AI take away from one's, especially a child's, creativity, where they can use their mind in a way that's independent from some type of machine learning tool, like which is an algorithm in the AI program, whatever program it's about. So that's the question. We're gonna try to do more of those pieces. You know, try to do more of everything. You know, we try to bring you everything, the whole ball of wax. Let me go back to Apple, and I didn't have that piece about Apple's new event that was happening last week of release a lot of the new products, week before last, I think. And one of the biggest release products was the iPhone 15. And there's several articles talking about some negative situation concerning Apple. And our show, we try to be more critical of tech than embracing every aspect of tech. One in the Wall Street Journal, I think they had a piece about the iPhone 15. They say the headline read, "Fragile, defected net citizens," meaning people out there, share a slew of complaints as Apple new iPhone 15 goes on sale. Okay, Apple's latest iPhone were flagged for a slew of design and technical problems within hours of their release on Friday. Social media posts shared by tech enthusiasts claim that the new device performed poorly on durability tests, had uneven coloring and other defects. Despite the complaints, demand for the latest Apple offerings remained strong on Friday, with hundreds queuing up at stores across the world. First iPhone 15 Pro drop test shows worse durability than the last year's iPhone 14. The new curved edges seem to be more fragile than the straight edge design, read one post. Another clip flagged a seemingly software glitch that sent lines rippling through the screen for at least a few seconds. Well, again, it appears that some units of the iPhone 15 Pro are defective. The coloring was not applied evenly. Furthermore, the screen seems not to be perfectly aligned with the edges, read a post shared by a Twitter user from overseas. While some reports dubbed the new phone as a fingerprint magnet, all phones does that. Others cited Apple supports article to dismiss the color change. For iPhone 15 Pro and iPhone 15 Pro Max, wow, so many flavors of that. The oil from your skin might temporarily alter the color of the outside. Wiping your iPhone with a soft, slightly damp, lint-free cloth will restore the original look, the company has said. Well, you know what? I don't blame the people for being upset, because I see what they're complaining about is just some cosmetic, you know, some things that they want to see how the phone looks or feels. Okay, but you're getting it for a device to use as a tool to communicate. You know, so why complain about something that you're going to be passed around a whole lot in, you know, as a communication device? But then again, you know, there's a lot to what some people say about these Apple products. And even Apple releasing these other products too. Every year Apple has this event. Every year Apple ups the ante and the prices for these phones and these services that come with these phones. Well, the positive thing, even though it's too late because I haven't got my iPad, the 9th generation iPad, which uses the lightning cable. I mean, the newer phones will totally dismiss the lightning cable. And I say, well, they should have done it a long time ago about the USB-C. So that's the only good thing I see. But the iPhone 15 being touted as a videographer tool, you know, that remains to be seen until I get some real world experience from some people or somebody wants to send me an iPhone 15 to test. I'm open to testing products. And I want to also say for a lot of digital creators out there who might be listening, you know, probably don't listen to this show, but, you know, you never know who's out there want to start doing video and start being more creative with their video work. And, you know, everybody's up on Facebook and Twitter, and there's so many apps, so many things to choose from, so many different items for you to start putting in your inbox, in your cart, in your basket, online, and paying for a whole lot of stuff. But I'm going to tell you, there's a lot of free tools out there, especially for you young, burgeoning video creators. There's a program called CapCut, C-A-P, CapCut. It's free, but it has a lot of tools. It's not just not no little, like Sister Khadija would say, dry run type software. It has all the bells and whistles to help you become the videographer that you can be. And since you're always up on YouTube and Facebook, why not make it right? So go try CapCut. I'm not promoting this item, but I know I use it on the fly for different editing skills that I want to apply. But let's say what I use. People say, well, what you use? I use Final Cut Pro because I'm a Mac Mini user. I got the M1 chip on, that's the first generation of the Mac Mini, first generation of the Mac M1 chip, which runs circles around a lot of those i7 core PCs, you know. So just a suggestion. We know, and we're not in the business of promoting any items on this show, but I'm just saying the ones we swear by in case you want to use a tool to help your productivity, go a little smoother. I'm just giving you some suggestions. The Mac Mini is on sale now because now they have the Mac with the M2 chip. Now they're going to the M3 chip also. So these Mac Minis M1s, which is very convenient and it's small footprint to carry, you know, or even the MacBooks, you know, with the M1 chip. They're on sale now, so you could you could get them cheap and you could use them for better productivity when doing your video, when doing your audio. All you digital creators with dealing with audio, you know, who am I to tell a DJ what to get as far as tools? You know, DJs know better than anybody else what to get. But I know for processing audio and video, the M1 chip serves, I mean, really goes beyond the pale. The only problem with these little M1 Mac Minis, they're limited in space. When you buy them, when I bought mine initially during the height of the pandemic, which was on sale when they first hit the market, Apple promoted them. I was the first one to get one. And the thing with them, they have limited space, storage space, and you want to have storage space, so you're going to have to opt to get you a external SD drive or even some other type of storage device to because it fills up fast. It fills up fast. So I'm just saying for those who want to be better, let's say you have a better tool to use. That's what I'm saying. You know, we can't say people is better than the other one, or the DJ is better than the other DJ, but we can say the better tools to use. And some people are still using old school tools, you know, but more power to them. So again, so many different products. Now, for all you digital creators, there are a lot of free programs for photos and for doing graphic work. We know there's one called, I don't have it now, Ink, I think it's Ink Spot or whatever. It's started with I-N-K, and I'm going to try to have it in the next show notes. And it's free graphic editing software, because you don't want to spend all that money for Photoshop. I have the Photoshop cloud program, and they're going up in the price also by Adobe, where you got the Adobe Audition. A lot of the editors, audio editors, people use that for editing on the fly. I use that for my promos and so forth. Well, Adobe comes with in a suite of different products. We know After Effects for video, graphics, and so forth. And we have Premiere Pro, which we use for video editing. What I don't use, I use Final Cut Pro on my Mac. But Apple, especially the Photoshop. Now, the best bang for your buck, if you're going to get that cloud suite, is the it's the Adobe Photoshop. Photoshop has some new updates, and these updates are mind-blowing. For instance, you heard one of the programs I ran, they talk about generative AI. What is generative AI? Well, basically is putting in a prompt. A prompt is an input of text information to create something through that, whatever that artificial intelligence program is running. So if I'm in Photoshop and I pull up the generative AI tab, which is on the screen when you open up any file. Say you open up a photo of a empty field, and let's say a sugarcane field, and the generative AI box will come up, and you start typing in, I want to see a big old giant bowl of sugar in the middle of this field. Well, what the AI prompt would do will construct a picture from all the input algorithm over all the different platforms of the internet or whatever, however Adobe programs, and actually construct a big old gigantic bowl of sugar in the middle of a field. So I'm just giving you an example. I mean, even if you have your own personal photo you did, and you want to put a picture of a puppy behind you, or a puppy sitting on your lap, where there's guidance where you would draw the outline with your mouse or your whatever stylus device you have to input, and it would actually generate different choices of a puppy sitting on your lap. The picture would actually look as if you had a real puppy, So that's the wonders of what we call generative AI, and this is in Photoshop. And other programs has that, but not on that level. Adobe Photoshop has it. So that'll help all you digital creators, And again, like all these things, AI can be used for nefarious reasons, but it can be used for some good reasons. Being an artist or giving something to someone special with a picture, editing a picture, upgrading a picture, even taking old black and white photos, even torn photos, and generating a new photo out of it. So many different ways you could use these AI tools for some good, good outcomes. So I'm just saying. So certainly it's a lot to talk about when it comes to technology. We know also on a serious note that a lot of the internet service companies are actually trying to roll back access to what we say cutting the cord type situation, because they're losing money. People are going to streaming services, and basic cable companies do not want to lose that revenue stream. So what they're doing, they're raising prices on the streaming side of things, because they're losing revenue on the cable TV side of things. I know Comcast said they're going to try to fight against cord cutting if they could do that. And these companies get so fat and so rich and so big, and they start buying up all kind of other properties, like movie studios and film companies, and they have to pay for this. So what they want to do, because the consumer is trying to save money because of these high inflation times, they pass the cost on to the consumers. So what they do? Well, they keep raising the prices to pay for these big properties they are acquiring, movie companies, and even the strike with the actors. And we might want to stand on the side of the actors, but again, it's not the person who's pulling a cord or pulling using what we call a gap boy who's helping put out the the different function of a person who's on set. We have more money going to the actors, to the film companies, to the CEOs of these corporations. So why shouldn't they take a hit on these things? So they're passing all the costs of this strike, actor strike, and it's not just about, so I might have this mic all the way up. It's not just about they're not getting paid for the use of their product. It's more that these actors are rich, filthy rich. These studio heads are filthy rich. But these regular people who might be the people who work the cameras, who work the audio, they're not getting paid a lot. So they pass the cost on to people who consume the information, who consume the films and the movies, the Netflix and so forth. So pay attention to that. So it's not what it seems to be. That's just my take on it. So again, I want to run one more piece concerning, let's see, concerning the courts and AI. Again, forgive me for not being on cue. I don't have my mixer board this time, but we're going to make it work.
Welcome to Tech News Briefing. It's Thursday, August 24th. I'm Zoe Thomas for the Wall Street Journal. Since the launch of ChatGPT late last year, a flurry of lawsuits have been brought against the makers of generated AI programs. OpenAI, Microsoft, Google, and Meta have all been targeted. And the cases address a range of issues, including copyright and who's responsible if an AI tool makes a mistake. It could be that what is decided in the courts is more important to the economic future of AI than conversations lawmakers are having about regulating the industry. Here to discuss some of the biggest cases is our tech policy reporter, Ryan Tracy. Ryan, there are a lot of cases, but let's start with the ones focused on copyright, because a lot of listeners will have heard about artists, writers, and others being unhappy that their data has been used to train these generative AI systems. So what are some of the most significant cases here?
There's a number of them, and they all could be potentially significant depending on what the rulings are. One of the prominent ones involves Getty Images, which is, a big service that Wall Street Journal and other news organizations used for pictures. They're suing the image generator Stable Diffusion, arguing that the maker of that image generation program basically used a lot of Getty Images archives without permission and without paying for it. And oh, by the way, it is potentially a competitor to Getty Images because it can create pictures that some of Getty's customers might use instead.
What's the plaintiff's arguments generally that their copyright was violated?
Their argument is that the makers of these AI systems need to come to artists first and get permission to use artists' works before training AI systems based on them. And the artist should be able to say no, or the artist should get compensated for that. And that didn't happen as a lot of these major systems were being developed.
And the developers of those systems, what are they arguing?
Well, so there's a concept in copyright law called fair use, and basically says that if you're using someone's work, you don't always need to compensate them. If you're, for example, taking a short video clip from a movie and using just a very small piece of it, you don't need to go to the movie studio and get permission to do that. And there's all sorts of case law about what constitutes fair use, and these tech companies are arguing that this is a fair use of the artist's work. And one of the factors that will be weighed as courts look at this is there a benefit to the public in allowing this kind of data to be used for training?
And what could the impact be if courts rule that these AI systems have violated copyright?
In the most extreme scenario, you could imagine at least a court saying, hey, OpenAI, you've got to delete your model because it was trained on illegal data. There's also efforts that are ongoing where these AI companies are talking to content creators and artists and others and trying to work out some middle ground where the artists can refuse permission if they don't want their works to be used. Maybe there's a way to have some kind of compensation system, although there are challenges with that because if an AI program generates a single image and it was trained on millions of images, what would the creators of each of those images get? A fraction of a cent or something like that? It's not clear in practice how that would work.
Related in some ways to the question of copyright is just this larger question of all of the data that was used to build these generative AI tools. Are there suits that are focused on privacy?
Yes, there are a couple attempts to actually create class action lawsuits against Google and OpenAI, arguing that by scraping massive amounts of data from the internet to train AI systems, these companies ended up violating people's privacy. For example, there's a law in the United States, the Children's Online Privacy Protection Act, that says, if you're going to collect personal data about someone under the age of 13, you need the parent's permission first. Now, Google and OpenAI say that they are complying with privacy laws, and so we'll see how courts evaluate all this.
Another big issue here is defamation. What if AI mistakenly says something damaging about someone? We actually have talked about that on the show before with a case in Australia, but are there any lawsuits in the US focusing on that right now?
So there's one in Georgia that involves a syndicated radio host named Mark Walters, and his complaint alleges that ChatGPT defamed him. ChatGPT spat out an answer that said that Mr. Walters had been accused of embezzling funds from a nonprofit group, and that's not true. There was no such accusation or lawsuit. OpenAI has responded and argued basically that no one should believe that everything ChatGPT says is true. That by its very nature, AI-generated content is not always going to be factual, and that people should be fact-checking these outputs. And they make some other kind of more esoteric legal arguments too, and the court will have to sift through all that. One thing that's interesting in this particular case with defamation is other websites are shielded from defamation claims generally because of Section 230, which says that if you're hosting someone else's speech, the person liable for that speech is the person doing the post, not the tech company that's hosting the post. And a lot of legal experts say that it's very unlikely Section 230 would apply in the case of ChatGPT or another generative AI system because, of course, they're creating their own text and photos and videos. They're not hosting someone else's.
So far, we've been talking about cases that target the AI tools and the makers of the AI tools. Are there cases that are more focused on the uses of these tools and how other companies may be putting them to use?
Yeah, and not all of these cases have to do with generative AI. That's sort of the new thing. It's getting a ton of attention. We saw another lawsuit recently that, again, was trying to form a class action against Cigna Corp, which is a health insurance company. And the accusation there was that Cigna was using AI to evaluate insurance claims and was basically instantly rejecting massive amounts of claims using an algorithm without actually doing right by the patients and evaluating the claims individually. The company says that's not true and that's not how its system actually works. So we'll see how that one plays out as well. But that goes to this question of if you're using AI in a business decision, what is the fair way to do that and what might be a legal violation because it's deceiving consumers?
What's the timeline like here? When are we likely to get decisions in any of these cases?
Well, lawsuits obviously take a long time, and we could see some initial rulings in the coming weeks and months, but there will be appeals after that. Some of these lawsuits could end up going all the way to the Supreme Court potentially. So it will take some time, but Congress is slow too, and the executive branch and the White House have limited power despite all the meetings and speeches that they've been giving on AI. So, some of these lawsuits actually could end up being, in the long run, more important than anything Congress is talking about but may not actually end up passing.
That was our reporter, Ryan Tracy. And that's it for Tech News Briefing. Today's show was produced by Julie Chang with supervising producer Melanie Roy. I'm Zoe Thomas for the Wall Street Journal. We'll be back tomorrow. Thanks for listening.
There you go, people. AI being used, being used to make sure to actually let the insurance company know if you qualify. Wow. What about if you use AI to be at the gate and you have a big concert and AI, artificial intelligence, has to identify you, and you have to basically, be identified through a algorithm. That's the thing right there. So what about that? And like I thought I was gonna hit somebody. Oh, my mic is. Forgive me for my mic. I think we got some kind of feedback, but suppose we were using AI to identify people. Would you be comfortable with that? And the AI identifies you. No, you cannot come in this club because you tore up a club 2 years ago, and that was never true. So pay attention. Pay attention to artificial intelligence. It can be used for some good things and can be used for some bad things. I want to also say, people, please try to make it out to Baton Rouge this coming Wednesday, 12:30 p.m. on the steps of the Louisiana Capitol. The family of Ronald Green, Miss Mona Harden. Also, I have somewhere around, Attorney Ben Crump, Speakers Tamika Mallory, and others will be there supporting justice for the family of Ronald Green. This is election season. Let's make a statement to those who are going to Baton Rouge. Every elected officials who's going to Baton Rouge to make laws should be there attending, even if you're not coming to support the family. Come there to listen. Find out why they got voter apathy also at the same sense, because some people say the same people who are not here supporting you for Ronald Green want your vote when you're home, back home in Lafayette, New Iberia, Lake Charles, whatever, and you want their vote and you're mad that morning after the election, and you wonder why certain people didn't turn out to vote for you. Well, you know, that's part of it. Certainly, we don't want to be, a lot of us don't want to be involved in controversy, true. But when you take on the job of running for elected office, you should be able to be a part of everything, the good, the bad, and the ugly. So why not show up to a Ronald Green rally as a person running for office? Well, somebody might pull out a picture while you're on the floor of the Louisiana Senate and say, look where you was at a Ronald Green rally. Why should that be a deterrent? That should not be, because you're representing the people that put you in office. You're not representing that actual body where you're sitting in with all the lobbyists. You don't get mad at the lobbyists, but you'll get mad at that representative who attended the rally. And I'm just trying to make a logical point. If somebody's sending you to office, they're voting for you because of their concerns about a certain situation, well, you should represent them. Stop representing the status quo and represent that person who put you in office. That's all I'm saying. That's just some added value to people who want to listen to this rant. But again, people, participate in the voting process, but participate by being educated on the issue, the person, the place, or the thing. Let's say it like that. People in New Iberia, be careful out there. It's a big festival weekend. Just be careful. Watch yourself. Please stop the violence. Until next week, we're going to see you on another edition of the People's Tech and Entertainment Show.